Introduce yourself.
So I guess I am an interdisciplinary artist. I work with film, photography, and painting. Um, for the past almost year, I've been starting a short film where you know the artist Eve Klein?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but probably most people won't, or in general, like honestly,
Yves Klein is a French artist from the 1940s, and he would paint women in blue. And it was very much like choreographed, and we didn't really like know these women or who they were. So I was kind of inspired by the whole like making, like using your body as the paintbrush and sort of like escaping the paintbrush with painting. Um, but instead of it being about rather like a final product, like a final painting, it was more about the relationship to these girls and like being naked and like making art with their bodies. So I always ask them like if they see their body as a home, a vehicle, a safe space. And I've gotten like a lot of different responses. Some people have said, I've never had a home that's felt safe, so my body is way more comforting. And I've had other people say, sometimes when I wake up, I have arthritis and my body feels like shit, and it doesn't feel that way. So there's been a lot of variety.
So you interview these girls too before or after? How does
After.
Okay, and do you tend to try to really go like, is it people that you know, or is it kind of like, how is that relationship between you, the kind of like artist, and them as kind of like the canvas or the paintbrush?
Um, a lot of the people I do know, but a lot of the people have reached out to me who I haven't seen. Maybe I've seen a few times, so I wouldn't say I'm necessarily close to. Yeah, I think some people just really want to do it and talk and are comfortable with their bodies. And obviously, like being naked isn't something I force them to do. Obviously, it's their decision. Like I've done girls like with clothes on, with bikinis.
Okay, and so that's interesting. And so you're trying to create a whole, like the whole, as you said, so the process it was matters, like not only the final product or like the painting, it's like everything that goes around it. And
Yeah, and like the experience that these bodies have and how that kind of has affected their view on their body, and also how society has changed their views on their body.
that's absolutely. Um, and so how would the final product, essentially, even though it's not about the final product, how would the final product be displayed? Or this project would be displayed if you had ideas of it?
Honestly, I've been thinking about doing each scene separately,
Okay.
just so I could get them out as soon as possible instead of waiting to like get a certain amount of number of people for a short film. But yeah, it's still very much in like progress, and I'm giving myself another year to finish it.
Okay, that's nice. And so, what's your background, Isabelle?
I guess I started with painting.
Mhm.
Um, and I say like even like within my photographs and films, painting is very much like involved performatively into the frame, um, in the short film as well. But I would say I started just sketching in New York in high school, and then I went to Cal Arts and I got a studio and I got to have the space to create really large scale because I never had that before in New York. Um, and I realized how much more intuitive I could be when painting large scale because I can move around a lot more. And movement is something that's super important to me in my work, to be able to move around and um, have like more like sort of gesture throughout the painting. Yeah.
That's and that's true. And going into your paintings, they are fucking huge. Like most of them are like painted on doors and stuff like that. And so, is that
Yeah.
something you're comfortable with? Because I feel like it's kind of can go both ways. It's like, or it's like, it's kind of impressive. You're like, fuck, I have to paint this huge thing. Or it's like there's a comfortability towards it. What's
I mean, sometimes I definitely have those moments where I'm working on a painting that I've been working on for like a while. And I'll have a moment where I just fucking hate the painting and I cannot look at it anymore. And I'll just like put it aside. I like working on multiple things at the same time.
mm-hmm.
I definitely don't like working on one thing forever. I would lose my shit.
Is the painting behind you is yours, right?
Not this one, but this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is I trace my friend's body in like different directions, and that's kind of something I've been doing more. If I could, should I share my screen?
Yeah, you can actually. Yeah, that'd be sick. No joke.
Okay, wait.
I like that. Multiple participants can share. Yeah, try to share.
Okay, wait. Let me make sure I can find. Sorry.
No, that'd be dope if you could show us some pieces and kind of talk about them too.
Yeah. Okay, can you see?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So this painting.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, I need to get. So this is like, I kind of started with this concept a year ago, and this was just one body. But this collaboration I did with my friend Evan, and we traced each other's bodies. And I feel like kind of looks like a blending of two bodies together, and it's a lot more dynamic than one body tracing.
And it's on what? What type of canvas is this on? Paper?
No, just normal canvas.
Okay.
And yeah, and it's pretty big too. I'm not too sure
Well, actual size at the end of the day, right? Like this is like the tracings of your
human
body.
size.
Yeah.
Human size, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been like really interested in sort of like capturing like the body's energy and motion. Recently. And you could kind of see that throughout the film. Maybe should I show some?
Yeah, you should do it. First time. Woo.
I'm in charge. Trying to think. Okay, I'm just gonna show this one. I'll just show certain clips of it.
There actually was a moment where I was just like, fuck it. I think being with boyfriends and like controlling boyfriends, and there was always like an older guy that was like trying to control me and, you know, like make me their perfect image of femininity. And even when I was like 8 years old, I always knew that, you know, that wasn't me. I wasn't this perfect image of femininity. Even in like culture, in my family culture, it's like the boy is the perfect child. Like the man is the best. And I guess like the little girl in me was just like, you know, fuck that. Like, why do I have to be the little girl when the boys are being treated the best? And so I guess I never really felt so truly feminine at a young age. And
I can show a different person, but yeah, like
pretty dope. And I really like the concept of like the talking and then the images kind of going in and the comfortability too. Like you can see that girl is really comfortable in what she's doing.
I think. Yeah, well, that girl's actually my friend.
Oh.
So there's definitely like, I definitely like to have like a conversation with these girls prior to it, making sure like, is there anything you absolutely do not want me to ask you in the interview? And I definitely, since I'm asking so much vulnerability from these girls, take it like so seriously, just because like if I were in their position, I'd want, and like when I'm editing, I'm making sure every shot is good with them, especially the girls who are all nude.
So this person agreed to all these shots right now. She wouldn't mind that it's being played right here.
Sorry?
I said this girl wouldn't mind that it's being played on the interview.
No.
Okay. I mean, I think it's cool to be able to put these two different aspects, like the visual and then at the same time being able to listen to the story too, you know, and kind of. But how'd you go about that process? Like, do you come up with it, or like it's kind of like you go as you go with the person, and okay, you guys create that scenario and that.
It definitely depends on each person. I let the girls like choose the color they want to be.
Okay.
And I just kind of provide all the materials, like unlike Eve Klein, who like makes it very much choreographed. I kind of let them do whatever they want and just provide the materials and the space.
Uh-huh.
I prefer to go to their homes
Uh-huh.
to get like that sort of different scenery. But I've done it some like in the middle of the desert, some on the beach.
That's
It
dope.
definitely depends on the person.
And are you always behind the camera?
Yes.
Okay. And so it's a one-on-one thing. It's like you and the person.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like that makes it kind of like more raw. Okay, this is dope pictures.
Yeah. Should I show one more, or do you think?
It's up to you. I'm here for it. I'm honestly.
Okay, I'll show. Okay.
And how long are they usually?
I would say each of them like go from 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Used to go to create, eat, and live in like
Okay, let me give you a backstory. So she just said I got kicked out at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
Never really had a safe environment.
habitat. So that's why I kind of see my body as way more comforting than a home that I've lived in or home that I've made for myself even.
Just gonna skip a little bit to this one part.
Body, it matters how I treat myself. That's always been something for me. Like, how do I prove to myself and my body and where I'm living and go through day to day constantly? How do I do that while not judging myself? And I feel that I've been so traumatized to the point where I've had nothing except my body and myself. So when I look at my scars and when I look at the stuff on the floor, it's just a reminder that this is who I am.
I think it's crazy. The imagery is dope. I don't know how you do all those effects. It's pretty sick.
Thank you. Thinking what else I should show. Should I show some of the work in LA?
Oh, please. Absolutely. And I'd like you to talk about these too, because I'm actually personally interested in what goes on your mind when you're making these characters and the colors and the composition. Go to the one all the way on the top.
This one?
No, the one all the way on the top. This one, how big is this one? Because I think this one we should.
This one's a smaller one. It's about like, I can't tell you exactly the size. I would say it's like
I think you should auction this one, unless you don't want to, unless you want to keep it.
Oh, I'm super down.
Yeah, I think this is a dope one. So what was the process?
This was actually the first drawing I made in California, and it was it was always like sort of creating these weird character monsters, sort of like with these halos, but like chained to something. And I think I was very much thinking about growing up in New York and all of like the trauma and experiences that came from growing up super fast in the city where you can't help but do that. So I think that was very much my mindset while doing this. And this was I made this very fast. I would say like in like 30 minutes.
I really, that's dope. I really like it. Yeah, I don't know. It does have like, I don't know what it is, but it's captivating.
Thank you.
So this is one of your smaller pieces.
Yeah.
Okay. And this, by the way, to everyone that's watching this, all these pieces are for sale. As I see the LA portfolio for sale.
Yeah.
So. I choose one and you can. The one.
This one is a self-portrait, actually. And it has a few things like matches glued onto it, like a martini glass here and a blunt. And this is actually like I own this shirt I'm gonna wear it. And I had this necklace that looked like this at the time. I made this when I was 18. Um, and once again, I feel like it was just like this persona that I would like put off to people to sort of like not have to
Mm-hmm.
be vulnerable and put off like this sort of hard edge persona that obviously isn't the only part of myself, but it definitely was a self-portrait of me at a time.
Interesting. So what does it do to you to look back at these self-portraits and know that where you
Um, I find them amusing. I mean, I definitely can't see myself making something like that again. Um, it was very much, looking back at it, I don't know, it makes me think how much I've changed and how I don't know, that my style has definitely become a lot more layers and isn't necessarily about myself. I feel like for a while I was making art about my own experiences. And then when COVID happened, I kind of realized that I'm over talking about things that I've been through with my art, and I really want to talk about other people's experiences and like bring that more into conversation with the things that I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
I think that's even it's cool to even have that as an artist, kind of be able to, have these recordings of specific moments in your life because it is such a personal thing, right? Like when you're making a canvas or making a sculpture or whatever it is, you really put a lot of your emotions into it, and it's interesting to see how much time dilutes everything, and with just taking a step back, you can really, I think that's one of the blessings of being an artist and being able to record these things with time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is like a much more recent piece.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Yeah. But this I actually made most of it, not these parts right here, but most of it with my hands.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because like recently I just like really liked to use like my body, not paintbrushes, to like create. And I feel like it just like brings more of a sort of vibrance and like movement
Mm-hmm.
into the piece.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I was like right here, I was literally like covered in paint, just like putting it all the way up like multiple times. And it's about, I mean, I don't want to go too much into detail, but it is about someone who has been in a coma and but is out of the coma now. And so I was really thinking about like someone rising from like a world in between these two. Like he wasn't in heaven, wasn't in earth, but he was in between these two worlds. And I was just kind of obsessing of like where is he? And once I found out that he was out of the coma, I like really wanted to make a piece of like sort of like this angel rising from like these wheels that on the ground. But this is still a work in progress.
Really? So this is not even finished? It's actually beautiful, Isabelle, honestly. I think it speaks a lot.
Thank you.
I'd like to see in real life. I feel like these pieces deserve to be seen in, like in gallery type of setting where you can be there and check them out and see the size and everything.
Yeah, hopefully one
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
um what
This
else?
is one of the more recent ones.
Yeah, that's very recent.
Okay.
That's at my studio at NYU. This is actually in LA.
Yeah,
Um,
that's cool. It's fucking
yeah,
pound of chains on the bottom.
yeah, this is when I was literally like, I found those like chains in the dumpster at Cal Arts. I was just like always looking for random, like I was obsessed with found objects during that time.
Mhm.
So I was just like always going through the dumpster at Cal Arts. Anyways, this painting I definitely feel like is number one about New York and sort of like these different personalities like blended into like this one body. And then right here, this man figure trying to grab onto a leg, and in between two legs like lies like the night in New York City. So I think it definitely,
I have a question. What is it about New York City? Tell me, because I mean, I know, like I'm, you know,
I don't really make that much art about New York City anymore, but this was a time that I was really reflecting about it because I was in LA.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
No, it does, but that's my question. It's like, not to say that that's your main focus, but like, what was it about New York City that attracted you, or like what that didn't attract you, or like kind of set you off, or like what? It's interesting. Like I'm interested in that relationship for someone that lived in that city. Yeah.
Yeah, wait, I'm just trying to think of a way to say this
So
properly.
you were born, like you were raised there, yeah. You started like, how old
Yeah,
were
I was born and raised in New York, and I mean, I was definitely exposed to a lot of people who were very much addicted to drugs. And, you know, I myself was addicted to drugs during that time in high school and had been in very dangerous situations many times. And this was just a time of me reflecting of
you?
uh, like sort of like the grittiness and the harshness and cruelty of, even though it's a privilege to grow up in a city like New York, there is also a backside of really having everything at access
Hmm.
at such a young age. And but at the same time, I wouldn't like want to grow up anywhere else
Hmm.
because
I think no, I think that's I think you're absolutely right. And it's funny because all these things tend to always be like double-edged swords. You know, like you can have this blessings and then at the same time, you know, they can become a curse too. But it's I think what I think is beautiful about this story, it's that I don't know, some people go through these things and don't have a like they have a hard time kind of looking back at these, you know, periods of their lives and trying to reflect on them. And what I always try to make a connection when I have these interviews is like the art that makes it, like how does, so I always feel like this wave of shape or like this creativity that we can like unleash on a canvas or on anything that we create kind of stores these little pieces of our, like our memories, and allows us to kind of look back at them, right, and really grow from it. So do you think that this was this process of you creating these pieces was like part of the growth that went into like
oh
you?
my God, definitely. I feel like it was definitely like these pieces were something I needed to get out of my system to
Hmm.
be able to work on different topics.
Hmm. That's
And
yeah,
yeah.
it's dope.
Um yeah, so this piece is called ENYC because everyone is always like New York City too alive
Hmm.
and blah blah blah. But so I just kind of wanted to make like this like manic face looking like he's going insane trying to eat this city,
Hmm.
but he's eating it and he's getting through it. And I think that's what New York is all about, you know?
Hmm. I like that. I feel like
Um,
only people that lived there could you know relate to something like that. I mean, maybe other cities are similar, but I feel like New York especially is very specific.
yeah. And I guess with this piece here, it's I like broke it apart. It's on drywall.
Hmm.
During this time, I was very much like trying to escape the canvas and sort of like work with wood and drywall and to like create that sort of like grittiness texture that I wanted. Um, and this piece I definitely think is about safety with women, like going into certain places at certain times in New York City and trusting that they will be safe, because we're young and we're naive and growing when we're maybe a little fucked up. um, and there's something to that, and there's something to exposing that danger for younger girls to be able to understand that like behind closed doors like can be really unsafe. And I think it's such a habit growing up in New York to just like go building and like meet a bunch of people at the same time that you kind of forget to evaluate where you are. So I just kind of wanted to like break these sort of cages that are here and like put these like girls sort of like suffocated in these buildings.
So this was like a one piece.
Yeah.
And then you just broke the bottom.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It was fun too. Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yeah, it's dope. Thank you for that, by the way. It's actually really cool to be able to do that, to see the canvas and you explain it next to it. I think it's very instructive. So now you're doing this new project that hopefully in a year will be done.
Yeah.
That I'm excited for, honestly. And do you see yourself staying in NY? Because you're in New York right now, right?
Yeah, I don't graduate until next end of fall.
Okay.
But I definitely, I mean, it will probably be easier to find work in New York, to be honest, because
especially for art. Absolutely.
But I definitely do want to go somewhere else eventually.
I think New York is such a big hub for that, especially for like, trying to get in with like the right people and the right galleries or whatever. I think New York is crazy for that. So I definitely recommend starting a career there is probably a smart move.
Yeah.
But so you're living with your mom, or
Yeah, I'm with my mom and my sister right now, but we are actually moving soon. It's gonna be crazy. Moving is always so stressful.
No, it's a nightmare. How long have you guys been there for?
Like since 2013.
Oh damn.
A while.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it was a beautiful interview, to be honest. So we really talked about a lot of your pieces and your headspace on it, and I think it was very inclusive. But do you have anything you'd like to talk about, or any subjects you'd like to?
I definitely would like to talk about a few more things. That's cool.
Please.
I definitely think collaboration is something that's super important to me in my work. I feel like I really learn a lot from working with other people. And actually, this guy I dated when I was in California. Wait, let me get it up because I have it somewhere. He wrote something, said, "I nor anyone else will fully understand the reason things happen, and for this I make art." And I feel like that's something that's really resonated with me and something that I super relate to, because I feel like art has always been something that has very much been a reactive thing of it, whether my experience or other people's experiences, it's always been a reaction. Because while I've been at NYU, like so many people make work about research and about papers and things like that. But for me, like my art is nothing to do with academic stuff. It's very much about, although I can relate it to Eve Klein, how that complicates it, or Carolee Schneeman, I could relate it to them, but I don't make art because of art from the past. I make art because of current experiences that becomes a reaction. And I think my art is very much a reaction.
No, I see. And it makes sense, especially if the experience is part of the art. Like I think that what you were saying even before with the short movie that you're making, like everything is art. It's not necessarily just the final product, is what goes, the movements that go into it to get.
Yeah, like in the movie, like something that's super important to me is like I expose the body to not be seen as pornographic, but as a home built of human interactions, like both beautiful and dark experiences that can move the observer to feel recognized, comforted, or disturbed based off like their own living circumstances.
So even that reaction in itself is part of the art.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's I think it just takes it always like a step further, you know, and that's the beauty about being able to be an artist in today's age. It's like we're not secluded in a box anymore. You can add layers and layers of like thought process and everything that goes into it to expand into this experience, you know, because I think it is an experience from the moment I set my eye on a canvas and I start thinking about it and start trying to put myself in the position of the person that painted it or the position of the person that's being painted, or, you know, there's so many different facets that you can't tap into. And I think that's like a real job of an artist, is trying to, you know, find the ones that correlate the most to them, you know, and hopefully to others too. But
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's key. And how did you find that out? Like you said that you were doing most of the art about yourself, and then slowly you started doing art for others.
Honestly, it just became painful making art about myself all the time. I'm like, am I really just gonna dig into the past and everything I've been through all the fucking time? Like, no thanks. I find it way more interesting to hear from others and make work about that. Not to say that I don't think I'll ever not make work about um, my life, but I definitely, it just became painful and repetitive, and something that I feel like my practice is always evolving and changing and never stays in one sort of concept or medium.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And is that like comfortable to you to be able to think that you can always like? Because I don't know, I feel like it could go both ways. It could be kind of like, oh shit, like how is your relationship with your mediums, and how do you kind of switch from one to the other?
I feel like painting is a lot more personal and intuitive and kind of like very fast paced, and I just kind of go for it. Um, but I've made paintings with a lot of, I don't know, it ebbs and flows, I guess. But with photography and film, um, especially with this film, I definitely don't go into like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do whatever I want, because I feel a responsibility for these girls. So I definitely um, take it a lot more carefully, and like requires more patience out of me because I'm not a very patient person, which is why I make very fast art. But with this film, I've been learning to take my time and
No,
like,
it makes sense. It's like you don't want like the thought process that goes into the actual art piece is a much different one that it would be for painting. The way you're getting at it, so it makes sense.
yeah.
No, I think you're right. I think collaborations are beautiful. It adds another, you know, piece to the.
And then like it like permits you to experiment, because you can meet artists who make work completely different than your work. So like I shared a studio with someone who was an installator and sculptor, and I don't do those things, but I was able to learn so much by sharing the studio with him.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Do you like that, or do you see yourself making installations in
I
sculpture?
could see myself making installation sculpture work collaboratively, but for my own stuff alone, no. I'm very much like a 2D
Mm-hmm.
or like film kind of person.
I respect that. I respect that. Yeah, you said that you had other things you wanted to talk about. You said collaboration, and I don't know.
Um,
Yeah. No.
1 second. I feel like I've actually like talked about everything.
But did you write down some stuff that you wanted to talk about? Is that what you're reading?
Yeah, I was reading that.
You prepared. That's good. I respect that. No, I think it was very inclusive. Honestly, I'm actually really happy I did this even person to person, because I feel like I know much more about why you do what you do, where it comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. I just one last thing that you want to say to the people before I stop recording this beautiful interview.
Like,
Okay.
Um, like to artists?
Or to whomever you want to address to, whatever.
To keep supporting your website because what you're doing is dope. And look at my paintings that are coming out Monday. Yeah, no, but seriously, what you're doing is dope to be able to like show young artists, because young artists really right now, like it is hard to like get ourselves out there.
And
So,
yeah, and I think there's this one guy that I talked to like 2 weeks ago or something. His name is Everything Stopped, and we were talking about the subject about like artists, you know, not getting recognized in their youth and like being curated and like kind of um, not curated necessarily, but at least being, you know, watched over, you know, and taken care of in that sense, where they don't have to survive to be able to produce the things that they make. And he was saying, yeah, it sucks that why do people have to die to get that recognition, or why do people have to, you know, go through a lifetime of hardships to get that recognition? So it only takes, you know, it takes just a few steps, a few little, you know, conversations and a little bit of will, and then you can really put people on the platform. That's kind of the idea with Piss Unique, and I'm glad that people are willing to share their stories. Like for me, that's just as incredible as the whole project itself. It's like people that are willing to get out of their way and talk about what they've gone through, and hopefully it can relate to people, because I genuinely think it can. I've related so many times to so many things people have told me during these interviews, and so like I'm the one getting the most out of everything, which is funny. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. It was
yeah, thank you for having me.
yeah, it was a pleasure.